as a podcaster, you should be well-rounded in every
I
subject ever.
know. For real.
I
know
called it the fuzzy thing.
You know how Joe Rogan knows everything about everything?
Yeah, clearly, right?
And he's an expert on everything.
Yes, totally.
That's how he talks, right? So that's how you need to be.
I am an expert in everything. Ask me one question about anything.
What's 91 to the power of 14?
Oh, fuck.
10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7,
3 million and 6.
What's up, you guys, and welcome back to school. But don't worry, everything is cool. I'm your host, Jalissa, and of course, I am here with the boys, Steve and Brandon. Say what's up, you guys.
What's up?
And how y'all doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing? Brandon, you had a very normal, boring
I did have a very
weekend.
normal morning. Yeah.
So, guys, we were actually giggly. We had a really good warm-up. We were being a little giggles. We were cheesing.
Being
Goofy.
silly today.
We were being super silly, feeling a silly
Very
mood.
silly.
Julie, how are you doing? You know what? You always ask us.
Nobody ever asks you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Julie, how are you doing?
Just kidding.
It's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. Break down even.
I've been good. I think I'm starting to get sick. I started feeling like a scratch on my throat, but I don't know if it's because, like, I've been, like, screaming a lot at work or, like, because everything's really loud, so I have to shout. So I'm like, I don't know if my throat is, if that's what it's going through or if I'm generally just getting sick.
Do you want me to keep it real with
And
you?
then,
If you're at a place with a lot of people and you're constantly opening your mouth wide open, you're probably getting sick. There's probably some
I
diseases
thought
flowing into
they
your
brought
bloodstream.
back the mask mandate. They didn't.
What the?
Well, I
Never,
don't
bro.
know. The only thing that I always think is funny is I think when somebody catches COVID in the office, everybody else starts wearing like masks.
Yeah. Except
But
the
they
person
don't
who
they
has
don't tell
COVID?
us. They don't tell us to do it though.
Oh.
I'm like, but I'm always like, why y'all wearing masks more?
Well, you know, it's only a 1 day quarantine now.
Really?
Yeah. Well, my little nephew, he got COVID like a few months ago.
Yeah.
And he went to school basically the next day.
Damn.
Yeah. Well, it's because everybody's like vaccine and supposedly it's supposed to work, right?
Yeah.
So it should be fine.
Supposed to.
It's. I feel like it's more normalized.
Everybody got that vaccine.
That microchip.
Everybody got that vaccine that
The
works.
Doctors
Yeah.
said that it works. You know,
Everybody.
Dr. Fraud. I mean, Dr. Fauci.
Dr. Fraud. Did they actually
crazy.
call him that?
No, I came up with that right now. Fraudchi? There you
Fraudchi,
go.
sure.
I got his ass. No, I think people question the vaccine. It's more normalized. Oh, wait, you know what? I don't want to get taken down.
Is
Let me
it
not step in
normalized?
there. I swear it is. I see more people talk shit about it nowadays.
I thought it was
Wait.
more.
Talk shit about like talk shit about like getting the vaccine
Or just the vaccine. in
Talk shit
general.
about the vaccine, not about getting
that
the
it doesn't
vaccine.
work.
Yeah, I've seen more people be more like normalize it more.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with those people.
Your group of friends have been
No.
You don't know if you agree? Like you haven't decided yet?
I don't agree with those people.
Okay.
But I'm just saying it's become more normalized. Where in the past,
think
if I'd
so?
said that, I think we would have been like flagged and taken down, assassinated, everything. Yeah.
The only place I've seen people criticize it is that one dude who's running for president, Bobby Kennedy, because he's
Oh, yeah.
very.
But he's
like-
crazy though.
He's anti-vax.
Yeah.
He's-
Right.
yeah, I'm not anti-vax. Yeah, he has a lot of crazy ideologies.
Yeah. You're not gonna vote for him? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, brother. Not the voting question. But go vote. You better go
I
vote.
forgot that's
Go
offensive,
register to
right?
vote.
Yeah, we talked about this on a previous episode. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Are you-
What was I gonna say? Aren't kids like getting a lot more sick too? Cause like something about like measles, cause like they're not getting the vaccination.
Measles?
I think
Ooh.
it's measles, or I forgot which one it is.
I guess because everybody criticized the COVID vaccine,
Mhm.
all vaccines got lumped into that.
I agree.
Think of like they're all bad, which I think that's really dumb.
By
but
association.
I think
yeah.
I have been hearing that a lot of kids have been like getting affected because of that. That a lot more
Measles?
kids are getting like sick
well,
because they're not getting all their
Isn't like
vaccines.
isn't like the plague back? Like don't people?
Oh yeah, I
haven't
heard.
people
I
been
think
dying of the
I
plague?
think I heard. I
or
think
shit
I
like
heard
that?
about something like that coming back.
the way you guys are talking about it. It's like, guys, coming back? Like a reunion tour? Dead ass?
Like they got the band back together.
Bruh.
The plague.
That's
It's
amazing.
because I don't know. I generally thought, especially when we were during the pandemic, like the 3 year is coming up the anniversary or something?
That was
It's
a
been
pandemic?
4 years, no?
Was it 4? I don't
Yeah,
know.
it started in
2020,
2020. Come on now. Do
I
the
don't
math.
know.
It's
I don't know.
2024.
4. What's it called? I genuinely thought that people would be a little more like aware of like their
Diseases?
health and stuff and like taking care of themselves, but
no.
nobody cares.
I feel like it's more people gave less of a fuck now.
Yeah.
Now people are like, if I die, fuck it. It is what it is.
I think it's more people who like didn't get affected by it are very much like, well, I'm good. Like I lived through a pandemic, so I'm chill.
Like us, how we never got COVID despite hanging out.
On
Now
the
that it's been enough time.
on the books, I've never got COVID.
But
Yeah.
you did.
I don't know.
He
Probably- I don't
was
think so.
dying randomly of something, and he
yeah.
refused to take a COVID test. But I mean,
No,
on the bugs,
I did take a COVID test and it came up negative, but I was very sick. But I think it was just the flu, just built like that, you know.
Remember when I was on my deathbed?
What time? What time?
When I went to, I think, EDC, and then I came back and I was in my room. I didn't catch COVID either. But
Bro,
I
she was
just,
like asleep for like 3 days.
On the books. I didn't catch COVID, but I lost my smell and my taste.
Did you?
No,
Oh.
I was joking.
I was
I
like,
didn't,
did you?
I didn't catch COVID, but like I had like flu-like symptoms where I couldn't breathe.
I had
It was
like
weird.
chills and shit.
Like respiratory. It was weird.
Do you remember when COVID first started and people were losing their taste and they said that doesn't come back? I'm curious as to people who lost it and did it actually never come back?
We have you guys have seen him on the show, Patrick. He got COVID, I think like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Um,
That guy always has COVID.
He does always have
he got
COVID.
COVID on Christmas.
Ew, nasty ass, filthy ass.
Well,
Where's
isn't
he
it-
going?
Doesn't his mom work in a hospital?
Yeah, I know. I'm
So-
just
Come on,
you didn't have
man.
to say that. That makes me look like a douchebag. Yeah, wait, that boy's always walking around with COVID, and he said that his smell isn't the same.
So he can't smell stuff anymore, really?
He can, but he said that it
It's-
never was the
it's
same.
It's just very weak.
He said that a side effect was that like his taste buds kind of changed. He feels like shit tastes different. Like he doesn't
Interesting.
like some of the shit he used to like, but he likes new shit.
I've heard people have that like with soda or like junk food.
I hear that too. I hear
Well,
that.
They can't eat it anymore. Like it tastes really nasty.
Because of COVID?
Mm.
Interesting.
I've heard that too.
Yeah.
I think, but I heard that happens regularly if you give up junk food and soda, like you take a tolerance break from it and then try to go back into it. That apparently it does not taste anywhere as good because you basically had withdrawal from the sugar or whatever bad ingredients were in fast food. And once you go back into it, your taste buds can immediately taste that it's bad for you. And so your brain just immediately thinks it's disgusting. It's like a real thing. But I've heard about it even since I was a kid. I heard about that if you wanted to kick off soda, you got to like go cold turkey. And then once you go back into it, it would not taste the same.
Interesting.
Yeah. Health advice.
Very
But Julie, what did you bring for the show this week?
Today I wanted to talk about relationships because
Ooh.
we're all in relationships.
Are we?
Are we?
I have.
don't know.
I'm a very private person.
Mm.
Is there someone special in my life? There's a lot of people who are special in my life.
Dang.
No, wait. Actually, wait.
She's
I'm
gonna
just
be
kidding,
mad.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I am
Whoa.
proudly in a relationship.
Whoa, that's
Dang.
fucked up. I'm probably in a relationship too. That's crazy. He threw me under the bus. Now I'm scared. Now I'm about to tell everybody to delete this and act like you
I'm
didn't see this.
dead.
If you're seeing
She
this,
about to be mad.
I
bro.
love you.
She's gonna be pissed.
I'm just kidding. I'm being a silly little guy.
Mm.
And you had me call her before the
We did call her. She might call back in this show.
should I check?
Or she'll text.
Yeah.
Or she'll text me.
Yeah.
I got blocked.
I said a hot take. I said that if I'm a silly little guy, the repercussions and consequences to my actions should be less.
Mm.
I feel like that falls in line.
Yeah,
I'm
you
just
have
being
that
silly.
presidential immunity.
Yeah. I feel like if I'm just being silly, like right now, should I say something controversial?
No.
You already did.
Fuck you. All right then, Julie. Anyways, you were saying.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to ask y'all how y'all been doing in your relationships and what do you guys feel like you've learned so far?
Brandon, you go first, since apparently I'm a bad guy.
All right. Let me reiterate the question.
So, how have y'all been doing in your relationships and what have you learned so far?
How have I been doing? Well, fantastic. I'm really happy. What have I learned? What haven't I?
I know that's what you say.
Is there just like new things that you feel like you've learned through like from your past relationships to your current relationship?
I think how you treat yourself is very important. Like I saw like this. I guess I don't know where I saw it, but it was like you can only love someone to the extent that you love yourself. And I guess I've just learned that the way you treat yourself is really important. And I think if you're happy and healthy in a relationship, you learn that you should treat yourself as well as you treat that person, because then you can, by definition, treat them even better. And it's like a positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. What else?
You're
did
just copying him.
I just agreed. I didn't say, yup, that's it. I don't want to say anything else. I'm doing really good. I'm really happy. Things that I've learned is I think that in relationships you compromise a lot, and that's completely fine. I think you have to learn to also be uncomfortable sometimes, because you face a lot of uncomfortable conversations. I think it forces you to also try and become more mature, because humans are naturally just emotional creatures. Whether you're a boy or a girl, you're just naturally an emotional person. And I think that sometimes your emotions can overwhelm you and make you want to act irrationally. And when you're in a relationship, it teaches you to instead sit with your emotions and deal with them, instead of, just acting out whatever it's making you feel. So I think I've learned patience. I've learned compromising, and I've become more mature, and it's cool, because I feel like then it goes to other aspects of your life, like the way I deal with relationships, whether it's familial, friendships, paternal, or even in career.
Yeah.
It helps you all around just improve your other relationships. What about you, Julian? What have you learned?
What have I learned?
Yeah. What has your man taught you? That men ain't shit. That only rely on your girlies. And what's the third thing? Let's see. And that always never pay for your meals.
Be very dependent of men.
Hey, she said it, not me. She said it. Clip that. Make that a reel.
No.
You make the reels.
I like thinking as if we have an editor off screen.
I feel like, I'm about to be in a relationship next month. It's gonna be like 2 years. So, and that's crazy to me, because I felt like our year one felt a lot longer.
Oh wow.
But I think it's probably because I don't know. This is just through my own perspective. I feel like it's just I was learning to kind of heal a lot of things that I kind of just had lived through past relationships, that I feel like kind of complicated me being in a relationship. Because when I got in it, I was really scared. Like, I generally was just like, I didn't want to open myself up to someone. And even like us being together for a long time, I still didn't want to open myself up, because then I knew that the hurt would be even more, because we were together for a long time. So that scared me. And then the other side that also scared me was that the fact that it would work out, of like, damn, like, this is it. Like, like, this is the
person I'm beef with forever.
Yeah, like, this is like the official, like, me being an adult, of like finding my person kind of thing. So I always kind of had those fears going into it. And there's just like other things that I feel like I mentally was just going through. And I feel like that's why the first year felt really long, and then the second year felt like it just, like, we're here now. Like, it's year 2 kind of thing.
What does that feel like? Like, as somebody who we're about to hit half a year, which is really cool. And what does it feel like in 2 years? Does it, how there's the honeymoon stage? I'm really curious, as like a lot of people are like, I don't want that to end. But then I took a class of sex and philosophy and love. And they say in that class that the honeymoon stage is a temporary thing, but that's okay, because after that ends, it becomes an even deeper love. Yeah. Would you say you've experienced that, or would you say that the honeymoon stage is still in effect?
I feel like it's still there for sure. Because I've talked about it before, where I feel like I don't think I've ever experienced it like ending. So I still don't know what, I guess, the other side of that looks like when it does end.
Yeah, imagine you hit next month, you hit 2 years, and you guys are like, man, why are we even hug each other, bro? Like, that's cringe. Yeah.
And I feel like, because we have talked about it before, I feel like it sometimes does scare me in a little bit of like, is our dynamic gonna change a lot? But I don't know. I mean, I really compare our first year to our second year, and it feels just like, because I always think about it. I'm just like, I feel like we're so embedded like in our lives already that it just feels like normal. Like it's not a routine, but it's nice to like know that there's somebody else there. And I don't know. I think that's the feeling that I kind of hold on to, is that I have somebody, like there. And I think maybe that's why for me the honeymoon phase hasn't like really like left, because I know that feeling that I kind of just feel constantly of like knowing that he's there for me, and like I feel like we're both going through things, like especially for our careers. I think we're both on like the same kind of like timeline of like, we're trying to establish something for each other, but we're here to kind of be each other's support systems. Because I get when we apply to a job, right? Like I get when like he gets denied, because I've been through that. So like we kind of have that understanding, and I feel like because we've been going through that together, I think that's what's kept us together, to have like that support system, which is why I also feel like even more the love of like, and that's why I feel like I feel like it hasn't faded, and I feel like I have brought up to him that I feel like I sometimes want him to be a little more romantic, and the thing about that is that he has been trying. And like, and from, I guess from the first year, it was like here and there. And then the second year it's a lot more. So it's like, to me, that's why I'm like, I don't see it like really ending anytime soon, kind of in a way. So I'm also pretty excited with how the rest of it is gonna go.
Have you ever heard of this concept, or YouTube, Brandon? Have you ever heard of boyfriend air?
Yeah, I actually just I saw both of them, the boyfriend and the girlfriend there.
Really?
On TikTok. That, can I say it, or you?
Yeah, no, you go ahead, bro.
I saw the girlfriend air is that like her man, like if it's a good relationship, her man gets a glow up. But boyfriend air is that the girl gets a glow down. And so it's just people in relationships posting themselves being like, boyfriend air is real, and this is girl being like, look, I had a glow down. And then it's another one where it's like, girlfriend air is real, and then it's like, this is how I met him, and then he has a glow up, like he's like ripped and like he's like covered in tats, and so
yeah, that's exactly the perfect definition, bro. That's what I was gonna bring you. Have you heard of that?
No.
What do you think? But now hearing it, do you feel like that's accurate?
I guess.
You don't have to agree.
Well, I don't know. Well, because I was like, I always think about when I met him, I was in my gym era for a bit, and then I stopped going to the gym. But also that's because I started working a lot. Yeah, so like I generally just couldn't go anymore.
That's not an excuse, bro. You gotta grind. You gotta sleep 2 hours a night. Come on now.
2 hours?
Yeah, you don't need 2 hours. The human only needs like 16 minutes to sleep.
Yeah. No.
That's not
That's
true.
why he is the way he is.
Who, Steve?
Yeah.
Oh, at least sleep 16 minutes?
He always sleeps. He's always sleeping.
I know, he's always taking a nap, bro.
Hey, naps are cool, bro.
He's always taking 4 hours.
I always,
I'm just kidding. He stopped, right?
Yeah, and my girl, well, speaking of relationships, my girl actually put me on. She says that the best naps are like 20 to 45 minutes. So usually I just take those. I put an alarm. And then it's true, I don't have to sleep for like 4 hours. Yeah, but so you agree? Is boyfriend air real?
Well, I don't know, but it made me think of like when they say that I don't know if it's the same thing when you get like relationship weight.
Yeah, but specifically that one said that your man glows up. Do you think it's true? Do you think you've helped Chris glow up?
I feel like I have, in like just like his style. Like I've been teaching him how to dress himself a little bit. Because like I feel like he always just wore like graphic t-shirts, and so I eventually was like, I don't know, get like a shirt that has like, I don't know, a couple buttons or something, or like something nice. Like instead of, he always wears jeans, I'm like, bro, wear some cargo pants. Like he always wears Vans. He started getting Dunks. Like I'm like, bro, like just, like change it a little bit. And I feel like he has. I mean, he grows out his hair. He used to just like, what is it? Buzz cut.
Oh yeah.
Now he like grows it out, and he doesn't wear a hat as much or as often.
He has waves.
And like I don't know, I feel like he has been a little bit more comfortable with himself. I feel like I can see that.
That's cute.
I don't know. He probably can't see that, but I can see that he's getting a little more comfortable with himself and just like how he is. Because I know that that's something that he was very, I guess, like the word's not intimidated, but he was just very shy about like showing himself. Because I think people always like were like, "Oh, you're very weird and like goofy kind of thing," and I'm like, I like that. I feel like that's cute. Like,
I like that you're weird.
I was like, we're both weird, okay? I was like, we'll both be weirdos
Y'all are
together.
misfits.
Hey man, everybody's a little weird. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna. Sorry. Wait.
Yeah,
Do you want to
you're
go?
gonna say?
Okay. I was gonna say no bullshit. Like no bullshit at all. Like not trying to stir the pot. Do you think that's like a societal norm?
Yeah.
That in relationships, I guess the woman quote unquote glows down and the man glows up because in society, at least in American westernized society that we live in, there's this idea that when a man gets a woman, the woman kind of provides for him in a motherly way, where it's like that, like, oh, I'll get him dressed, I'll make his food for him, which allows for the man to be able to just like focus on himself, while the woman puts the priority of the dude in front of herself. Like, and I'm genuinely not trying to stir the pot.
Yeah, yeah.
I just that's what I think of, because if that's true, if that's like a real thing, like boyfriend or girlfriend, or obviously it's not the air,
Yeah.
right? But it's more of the like dynamic of getting together in a couple. I'm like,
Yeah.
where does that stem from?
Interesting.
Right?
I personally had a slightly more positive like look on it,
Mm-hmm.
just because. Well, first of all, I'm not a fan of like what those whole things where it's like, because those labels seem very like boxed in, like it can only look like that. Like when people do like orange peel theory, you know, shit like that.
Okay.
Like you know how people
Yeah, I
like
get
make
you. Yeah.
something out of make a mountain out of a molehill.
Okay.
I think it can go like in a lot of ways. Like I think if you're maybe in a toxic relationship, like maybe someone comments on your weight a lot, right? And they make you feel really insecure of it. You could have like an objective glow up where it's like, oh, like I look better, but then you feel horrible about yourself, you know? Or the inverse is true. Maybe you don't go to the gym as much, but you had a negative relationship with the gym. You're like, I need to be here because I'm unlovable if I'm not. But then you're in a healthy relationship and they're like, I love you as you are. You know, it could be like that.
I have a real life example. I remember I had a friend who she was in a relationship for like 2 years, and I remember she had gained like a lot of weight, but I always equated it to like, oh, they say in relationships when you're really really happy, you gain the relationship weight, and then they broke up, and I remember we were hanging out, and they had told me that like they gained weight because they were very unhappy in the relationship,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't tell her because I didn't want to be rude. Because I don't think I should point out that, but I just thought like, oh, I thought the concept is like relationship weight is the positive thing.
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't know
why
it would be a
I
negative
think it
thing.
can go both ways. Like with the glow up thing, right? I think, I really should keep track of all this stuff. But I saw it. Somebody was saying like, if you're in a good relationship, right? Somebody like points out all your positive qualities, right? Like maybe you see Chris and you're like, oh, like I like when you wear those jackets, and he's like, really? Like I never really thought they were that cool, but you're like, I think they're cool. And it's not that you like changed them, you just more gave them the confidence to do it, and you brought out the best in them.
Yeah.
So I think when people glow up, it's just more like you're giving them the like the love and the confidence that they always needed to bring out their true selves. You know?
Yeah. I feel like for sure something I feel like Chris has given to me is like, I think I'm very self-critical of myself, of like, I've always been super like insecure. And he makes me feel like no, but I still am. Like even when he compliments me, I'm like, nah, bro, stop lying to me. But I'm like, for me, that's like me learning to not be so self-critical of myself, or like to, I guess, like hurt myself, right?
Give more self-love.
Yeah. And so like to me now, it's me now learning to also accept the compliment of like, because I feel like that also makes him feel bad when I'm like, no, like I'm not gonna accept your compliment. More in like the accepting, not in the part that I'm insulting myself. More in like he's trying to give me something, but I'm rejecting it. I'm like, no, like don't say that.
I relate to that because I think me and my girl kind of do that. And I know she doesn't mean any harm by it. Like I'll compliment her and she'll be like, no. And I think it's natural.
Yeah,
it's just natural. I think we as humans feel sometimes insecure. But yeah, I agree. Like, when I say that, I'm not lying. I'm being dead ass. I was like, no, you look good, you know? And sometimes you need that reminder.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the positive things that a relationship can give you, is that they make you overcome like insecurity. Like, wow, I guess I do look good in this. Like, oh, I look better than I do.
Yeah.
Because I think body dysmorphia is within all humans, but I think it's especially bigger in women, just because historically there's been a lot more like beauty standards. So I think there needs to be that extra, like, I guess, time put in to like make them see. Did you hear that?
Yeah, that was weird.
Anyways, there's a ghost in here. But yeah, back to what you were saying.
But I also feel like, I think with women, and I just thought about this. I think it's also just like, I think even telling like yourself, like, oh, I know I'm pretty, I know like I'm beautiful, whatever. I feel like sometimes on women and other women do this to them is like, oh, you're being very like selfish, or you're being very like, oh, it's you.
Egotistical?
Yeah, like if I were to be like, oh, I know I'm pretty, other women are gonna be like, oh, you're just super like about yourself, or like.
I think men do that to women too. I feel like a lot of women are like, no, don't, like, she's not cool. She thinks she's all that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of dudes are intimidated by confident women.
For sure.
Yeah.
100%. Well, I think that, like we said, there's a societal tie to it where it's supposed to be that men are the provider, the leader, while women are the supporter. And so when you find a woman who is a natural leader or a natural, I don't know, girl boss, I guess you could say, it's probably intimidating because it makes you feel emasculated. It's emasculated, right? I always say demasculated. Emasculated. So I think a lot of men try to put those women down. Like, oh, let me take them down a peg or two. They think they're all that. They think that they're better than me. And they'll never outright say it, but that's the school of thought that's behind it.
No, yeah. And also, like, going back to, like, me, like, I guess, dressing, Chris. Because for me, again, if I want to talk about my love languages, it's receiving gifts. So I also do that in, like, love, where, like, I give people gifts. And especially for him, I'm like, I feel like these are, like, things that I kind of like think that like he'll like. So I'm like, I'm gonna get this for him.
Oh,
so
cute.
then sometimes it's clothing, and I'm like, here, I'm gonna get this for you because like I feel like you'll like this.
And thus the glow up continues.
Yeah. So that's how it kind of just happens.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm also just like, he gives a lot for me too. So I'm kind of like, you know, I feel like we kind of like give each other stuff. And like how like we kind of can and stuff. Like his love languages are like, I think, physical touch and like quality time. And physical touch for me is like the lowest ranking. So I also had to learn how to like be like a little more of affectionate.
Compromise.
Yeah. Cause I was like, I don't really like I don't like I guess PDA either. Like that wasn't really my thing. And I was always like very uncomfortable, especially when we're out in public. And like, he was like, you know, like, just certain things, even like holding my hand sometimes made me feel weird sometimes. But I learned to kind of just be a little more comfortable in just that of like me being in a relationship. So yeah, those are like a couple of things that I learned.
That's cool.
But I have another question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this isn't saying like now, right? But would y'all move in together?
Like before marriage or
before,
ever?
like before marriage.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like you guys would move in with your partners before marriage?
Yeah.
I think culturally, and I've discussed this before,
Mhm.
I would be down, but my partner wouldn't be down, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think it's like a cultural thing.
Yeah.
I think because it starts you like already like on a more serious note, I guess you would say. But I would be down, so yeah.
And you said yeah.
Yeah. I think, you know, if it's cultural, I respect that, you know.
Mhm.
But I think for me personally, like, I think it's a good test to see like how y'all would be if you're married.
Mhm.
You know how when people say if you want to get really serious, you should travel with somebody,
Yeah.
because that's like a really good indicator of how you guys are really gonna act under like stressful situations. I think it's the same thing with like living together.
Mhm.
You know, like if you're gonna get married, I think it's a good practice run to live together
Yeah.
before y'all tie the knot, to see like, okay, well, this is how they keep their stuff clean. This is what I do. This is how they handle chores. This is how they handle responsibility. This is how they pay bills. This is, you know, this is what I'm getting myself into for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I don't even think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I agree. It's like a trial run, but in
Mhm.
a less serious way, because it's a trial run feels wrong to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because it's not like, oh, I'm seeing, and if it doesn't work, like,
Yeah,
fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
go fucking live in a dumpster.
Mhm.
But
Right?
I think, I guess what I was looking for is like, it's a healthy experience to have and a good learning experience before, I think, getting married and
Yeah.
taking that serious step, you know?
Above that, I also think it'd be fun. I
Yeah.
just think it'd be fun, like, especially because I think marriage in Western society
Mhm.
has a bigger tie than just the like romance of it.
Yeah.
And there's like about like taxes, and there's about like other shit, and it just gets complicated. But if you just move in with them, it is like a preview to what that would be.
Yeah.
And I think some people also want to protect it, and I understand that sentiment of like, oh, I want it when we get married or whatever that stage is. Like then we move in together because it makes it the more significant. But I also again think that's like not only like a system, but it's also like a what's the word, societal idea.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think, Julie, as a
Well,
woman? Because I think we're both man, and I've heard from my beautiful girlfriend, I've heard that obviously the perspective is a lot different because we're both men, and we get a lot more leniency from our parents. Where when we do big stuff like that, like, oh, I'm gonna move in with my girlfriend, it's a lot less. What's the word? It's a lot easier for us because we're men.
There's like no pressure.
Yeah, because it relates back to like having a girl in your room. Well, and I don't know, Brandon, if you can relate, because maybe your parents are a lot more neutral based on gender. But at least my parents, I feel like, are very biased towards gender, and a lot of Latino parents are biased towards gender. And I feel like it even stems from that, like having your girlfriend over. If you're a son, it's a lot easier. But like obviously, I don't know for you, Julie, or other women, if they had their boyfriend over. Like our friend Andrea, who's been on the pod, she told me that even to this day, despite her and Chris being together for I think now more than a year, she's still not allowed to have him alone in her room because her parents are very old school Mexican.
Yeah.
So I think it's different based on gender. So I'm curious to know what you would say.
Well, because my thing with like the moving in thing is I feel like since I'm maybe because I'm the oldest, that I still think in a little bit of like the old ways of like, and I think, well, one is that like I feel I still don't know, like I don't really know if I would really want us to move in together or not. Like it's still, I am leaning to like, and I know that he wants us to like move in together before like we get married, but there's still this part of me that doesn't want to do it. And I think it's just me just being stuck in like that tradition.
Right. It's a like, cultural thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Where I know that it's mostly just like me being like in that, like I'm scared to just like that being stuck. Well, cause also just culturally, like a lot of the people, especially like on I guess our family and our community and our culture, like they end up just like moving in together, but there's like no actual marriage. Like they don't end up getting married. There's no like engagement. There's nothing.
But people see them as basically they're married.
Yeah, but people see them as that they're married, and then eventually they do have kids, but they're not married at all. Like they or they eventually do get married by like their fifth kid. And so like for me, I think that's my fear of like falling into that, of like me, if we move in, to me, that's like saying that we are, I guess, married, but we're not.
Without the ring.
Without the ring, yeah. And I feel like I don't want that. Like I want like the traditional thing of like being married and then we move in together kind of thing. And I think that's why I'm still in that thing, and I'm trying to like unlearn that, because I know, I mean, we've slightly talked about it. We haven't fully talked about it, but I know that to his plan, he does want us to move in before we get married. And that's why, to me, I want to have the conversation, because I'm trying to also open myself to that of like, you know, like it could be a possibility where like we won't be married first, but we will move in. My other fear was that like, because I've grown up with dudes, I was always like, fuck, I'm gonna have to live with another guy. Like I'm gonna have to go through this again, where like, I don't know. I just saw like my brothers, especially my older brother, of like just how like, you know, just like how like they would just leave their laundry everywhere, you know, like
you're like, I can't live like that.
She
said older brother, I'm younger.
The restrooms are always like dirty, like, you know, and to me that was my other fear. But to go back to like just the whole moving in part, I think it's just like, it's just me having that fear of just seeing that, and I don't want to be in. And
it turns you off.
Yeah, well, I don't know, because I feel like for me, I like the idea of like marriage and like weddings and stuff. Like I feel like that's always just how, maybe it's just like the fairy tale that I've kind of just grown in with too. And I feel like I don't want to stay like that. But I'm also like, I feel times are really changing and it's all different. And I know that I agree to what you guys say, that it's a lot of like a test of like, you know, how you guys are going to be when you guys actually live together. And I think for sure the reason I'm so, I guess, a little against it is just I'm just scared of like what can actually happen.
Yeah, well, That's why, like, and then this isn't like a dig or an attack on you. I think I've just heard more from women that it's a very gendered thing. That obviously, as a dude, it's very like, oh, we just move in.
Well, for sure, because there's a lot of like gravity to it. Like,
Yeah.
Well,
But I
because it.
think.
Oh,
Go ahead.
well, because I was just gonna go, because then it goes into like all you're doing, kind of like wife duties when you're still a girlfriend.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
So but that's more like society, right? Says that.
Exactly.
Like society's the one who's telling you that, those kinds of things.
But I think, if that's, I guess the way I see it more is like, I don't think anyone should expect that. I feel like that's why I think you should live together, is because it's like, if you get into a relationship, right, and you live together, and suddenly your dude's expecting you to like take care of him and be like a wife and like cook me dinner and stuff like that. You now see that before you guys legally sign we're married, and you can be like, I don't want that, and you might find out, hey, whoa, I thought we wanted completely different things. Or you might find out like, oh, my bad, I didn't know that I did that. We'll fix that. We'll nip that in the butt and we'll fix that. That's where I kind of like feel like it's an important test, because it's like, you don't really, I feel like for a lot of things you don't know until you're there.
Yeah.
You can talk all day about like, it's kind of like a fight, right? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched. And I think you can be like, oh, like we'll talk anything out and stuff like that. But until you're faced with a certain situation, you don't know how you're going to handle it. So like stuff like that, which I think is completely valid for a lot of women to be fearful, right? Because I think there's the gravity that parents put, and there's the cultural gravity and all these expectations. So I think that's 100% valid. But that's just more my angle of coming into it, is I feel like if you were to move in together, there's a lot of stuff and a lot of things that are presented to you, like uncomfortable conversations, a lot of logistic things that I think you should work out before you legally sign your name to like, we're married and now we're completely joined together forever. Because that changes a lot when you sign your name, right?
I get what you're saying, and I agree with you. I just think because of this societal norm and the cultural norm, I think that for a lot of women, I'm speaking specifically on Latinas because that's my experience. Because I know my older brother went through the same thing. I don't know if you remember before they got married. Our older brother, I almost said his name. I don't know if that's even a bad thing, but he wanted to move in, with his girlfriend, but she wasn't down, because she said the same exact thing as Julie saying, where it kind of feels as though you're getting the commitment of a wife without the ring. Right? And women would prefer if you got the ring. And just to tie it back into what you were saying, I think that it's difficult because I think for a lot of women, and Jay, you could tell me if this is true or not, to be already roommates is basically already like being married. And because of that, you could say like, oh, I'm not assuming that we're going to be husband and wife coded, like husband and wife activities. But for a lot of women, I think in their mind, to move in means that you are going to be doing those duties, both husband and wife. And I think it's hard to kind of separate that and just be like, well, just be roommates. But like for a lot of women, it's just like, no, we're moving in. That means we're basically like, this means the wedding ring is for sure going to come. It's not a trial. It just means that it's going to come. That's a way I see it from an outsider.
Well, because what I was going to say was that like when you were saying, I was like, I get that like it's a test, right? But I think for me, it's like rewiring that of like me now, like learning or unlearning that like it's not that like if he were to say that to me, like if we were to move in and like he does start treating me like, oh, these are your duties now because like, or I have to act like a wife, right? I feel like for me, you say that, but to me, I was still like, I don't know, but still, we're moving in. I feel like I would have to start doing like those kinds of things, even though like it is a test of like, I wouldn't tolerate that. Like I was like me growing up of like me going against the patriarchy of like me not doing what like women stuff. Right. Like I was like, I know that like, I know like if you were to say that, I'm out, like I'm leaving, but it's just like, but it's still just like me, I guess, rewiring that of like getting myself out of that of like, that's not how it is, right? That's not really how it is, but it's just like, because I've learned that and I've grown up in that kind of mentality for such a long time, it's me now learning to kind of like get out of it. So I was listening and it makes sense. And I agree with what you're saying. It's just like, for me, weirdly enough, it's like my brain just ignores that side of it though. Like I forget that part of like, well, if he is like that, you can leave, like you don't have to tolerate that because that's not what you want. But it's just like, but it's still like, I know I'm going to be in it, right? Like, or I feel like that might happen. So that's still like a fear, and which is why it's a little more like, I don't want to do it kind of thing. But that's just to say, like, I think it's just very much culturally. And I'm not saying I'm close to it.
Yeah.
Especially because my boyfriend sometimes watches these things and he's like, he's like, I heard you say you want to move in. I do. It's just like, this is just what I have in my head. Because the other thing that I was just going to say is that, like, would you guys move to an apartment or would you guys go home? Like, where you guys live?
Oh, like live at home?
Because I know also, like, I don't know, I guess I've seen it more with, like, our family.
Yeah.
And my mom also has, like, the idea that, like, once we all get married, we're all going to live under the same house.
Like full house.
Yeah. So, like, for me, it's also, like, that's the other part, right? Is that, like, now it's either going to be an apartment or we're going to be at home with the family.
I feel like I've seen too much, bro.
Traditionally, it's always, because my mom always tells me, because I'm also, like, the girl, traditionally, it would be I leave the house.
Yeah.
Because I would go to his house, and then Stevie would bring his girlfriend, because she's the girl, right?
Yeah. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing, right? And so for me, I'm always like, I don't want to leave. Like, I'm not going. And especially because, like, he's in Orange County. I'm like, no.
And you're so Los Angeles coded.
Yeah.
Literally, look at her shoes.
I'm generally like, I can't leave. I can't leave my house, bro. But yeah, I'm just like.
But luckily, I mean, like, because your boyfriend's white, at least the cultural tie isn't there. Like, if he was Mexican, I think he would face a lot more backlash from his family of, like, you're going to move in with her.
Yeah.
What are you? Some kind of... Yeah. Some kind of what are the insults the older people call Gen Z, like
soft,
snowflake, soy boy. Yeah, they'd go in on him, but luckily since he's white, I don't know if it's the same thing is true in
I don't think
white
so,
culture,
but
I feel like I couldn't if we were gonna move in together. I just feel like I've seen too much. Luckily, because I had older siblings who did it. And I feel like it's so hard for your parents to not somehow try to butt their head and get involved in the relationship. I mean, your parents are maybe like everybody's parents is different, and maybe they're sound, and maybe they're cool. I mean, I think my parents are cool, but I think it's just very difficult because naturally, as a parent, you want to take care of your kid, and parents are therefore naturally nosy. And so let's say you and your partner are having an off day. You guys are arguing. You guys are fighting, not maybe loud or verbally in a toxic way, but you guys are having the best. It'll be very hard to kind of hide that from your parents. And you see this even in your friend group. You know, some people talk shit about their partner to their friend group. Yeah. And then they make up with their partner, and now their friend group doesn't like their partner. And imagine now that with your parents who could possibly be the grandparents of a future child, you know, that becomes so difficult to separate your feelings. So I don't know if my answer is completely no. I just know there's a lot of cons to living at home with your partner.
Yeah. How about you, Brandon?
I would like to move out. If that's, I'm not saying like I don't have the finances to do that.
Yeah,
but if money if I did, I'd want to leave. I don't want to split. But that's just, I mean, I agree with what you said. And I think that I need space. I feel like another person in my house, it'd be really cool. And I'm not opposed to that. But if I had a choice, I would like my own place. Just because it's like, I'm kind of claustrophobic. I feel like at a certain point, it's like, it's a little crowded here. Yeah. You know?
So you guys would go to an apartment?
If I had the money,
perfect world,
if I had the money,
we live in one of the most expensive cities in the world.
Yeah. No, my answer is generally like, I want a house, bro. Yeah. But like, it's so hard, and to me, just the thought of like going into an apartment even more is like a turn off of like, man, I have to go to an apartment for us to live together. But I'm like,
I just laugh because it's like, like, man, I wish you could live in a house. It was like, wait a minute. You're not married and you guys both move into a house. Now we have problems. Now that's a problem. What the?
But like I'm telling you that I just have like this kind of, I guess, ideal thing, right?
I get you.
Where it's just like it would be nice, right? Because it's also like For me, I think that's the reason I still, one, yeah, the economy is just really bad, and to get an apartment is just really expensive. But I'm also like, I think for me, the idea was that if I was at home, I'd be able to like save up to eventually like buy a house. True. But even then, like that's just fucking expensive.
That's funny.
I'm just like,
would you guys live in an RV together?
An RV?
Yeah.
An RV?
Buy an RV and then just, I don't know, drive around, park places. Would that be the ideal? It's not an apartment and it's also not a home.
An RV?
Yeah.
If we had really, really good money and we could travel a little bit together, yeah, I'd be down to live in an RV for a bit.
You, Brandon?
He was like, no.
You can live in the forest.
Just
you can park it in the forest.
Because I feel like I'm very... is it problematic to say I'm a germaphobe, even if I'm not like a germaphobe? Because I know people are actually germaphobes.
Mm-hmm.
No,
you're like a slight.
Yeah.
I feel like you're like slightly.
Yeah, and I feel like the only reason, like, I'd like the idea of it. It's just what always gets me is I would like a shower, like a really nice like shower.
They don't have the RVs. Don't have one.
They do, but like, and then for me, like the septic tank thing.
Yeah, I was gonna
say very like, nah, I don't know about that one. You know, septic tank.
So you know how you shit?
You have to use the bathroom.
And you have to
not
take
like
it out.
it's not like you just you drive and like release and it just dumps all of the button. Yeah, and it just drops it like in a trail behind you. And no, you can't do that. So it has like a septic tank. I think that's kind of gross.
Like I think that's kind of gross too.
It's like a portable porta potty, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So that's so funny. That's like where your mind went. Yeah. It's like it's not even about the dynamics of the relationship. You're like, I need to take out the shit.
And like, how am I gonna take a nice shower? Like, you know?
I feel like that proves you are a germaphobe because that's where your mind went. I didn't even think of that.
I didn't think of that either.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, there's a bathroom. There's a shower in there. Like,
yeah. But shout out to all the Latinas because I know it's taboo to move in with your man. Yeah. If you're doing it and you're faking backlash, no, you have todo chido's support.
Yeah. And always just have the open communication, you know? Like, you say what you like, what you don't like, you know?
Yeah. Life isn't a fairy tale, but you could do your best to make you guys have a happily ever after.
And this is the end of the episode. No, just kidding.
We'll see you guys next week.
No, but that's the end of mine though.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
Brandon,
all I say about that. Well,
what did you
speaking of relationships, I'm gonna take it to platonic relationships.
Wow.
Yeah, well, you like that, huh? Yeah. You know.
You're like, I dabble. I can freestyle.
So did you guys know that there's currently a friend recession in the United States?
Really?
Yeah, there's a downward trend of people having friends.
That's sad.
Yeah, it is a little sad actually. When I was reading it, I was kind of like, damn, it's kind of...
Wonder where that comes from, but maybe you'll go into it.
Side note though, one thing I noticed when I was reading all these studies, because I read a bunch of different articles, all of them make it really gendered. They're all talking about the same thing, but like some of them will be like it's a men problem, and then some of them will be like it's a woman problem. I don't know what that's about, but
we're attacking each other.
Yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, so you know how there's the friend recession? Like I brought that up. If you look that up, the different articles will have specifically that topic, but they'll make it seem like it's only one gender being affected. So like a couple of them were like, oh, it's a man thing, but then a couple of them were like, it's a woman thing. But I'm like, why are y'all doing that?
So it's a both. It's both basically.
But I just found that odd that they did that.
Yeah.
So yeah, 21% of men say they get emotional support from friends versus 41% of women. And that's a steady decrease for the past 4 decades. So for both genders, the amount of emotional support that you get from friends has been steadily decreasing. 60% of Americans with at least 6 close friends say they have attended a local event or community meeting at least a few times in the past 12 months, compared to only 33% of those with no close friends. So they bring this up a lot, that in America, there's been a downward trend of people going to like community-based stuff. So like churches, clubs, stuff like that. And for some reason, that kind of fell out of fashion. And that's where I guess a lot of people would cultivate a lot of close friendships. And one of the big things they mentioned too is after COVID-19 and everything went online, then it never really recovered. Like work is online, school is online, and those are kind of the last facets for people to make close friends.
Yeah.
12% of Americans reported having no friends, a trend that represented a 4-fold increase since 1990. So that's 12% of Americans don't have any friends at all. That's insane to me.
Oh,
I'm your friend.
Particularly affected were 18 to 29-year-old women. 16% of whom said they no longer had regular contact with most of their social circle.
I've heard that a lot of women usually like struggle to make friends. My voice cracked. I felt it in my heart, bro.
They just struggle to make friends.
I felt for that.
Quiere llorar. That's so mean.
That is so mean. I hated that when I was side note. Because
it actually made me want to cry.
Yeah, for real.
Look at him, he wants to cry. That's so sad.
Especially because I was like seen as a crybaby growing up, so I was like, "Fuck, it's true. They're making me cry."
And then I found that Americans spend about 20 minutes a day in person with friends, and that's down from 60 minutes daily from the 2000s. So friendships in general have just been plummeting. But then I found that this is actually like a studied thing in the American and the WHO, the WHO organization.
World Health Organization.
Yes, there we go. I apologize.
It's okay.
But apparently, being lonely is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and you might be like, "Where'd you pull that?" The Sergeant General, the Health General, like the Surgeon General of the United States, he conducted that study. So it comes from like, it's not like, they made this up.
Yeah, I wonder how they measure that.
Yeah, I don't know either. But yeah, so 15 cigarettes a day is the same as being completely lonely. Yeah, they also found that loneliness increases the risk of premature death by nearly 30%, which with the report revealing that those with poor social relationships also had a greater risk of stroke and heart disease. Isolation also elevates a person's likelihood to experience depression, anxiety, dementia, too. So it's like a serious problem that people aren't socializing or having any close friends.
Yeah, I wonder what the biological or scientific like explanation for that is, because that's kind of haunting.
What do you mean?
Of what?
Like the fact that your body basically shuts down and you could fucking possibly die earlier.
Oh, from not socializing?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't look into this, but I know that people are social creatures. And I think that's probably baked into our DNA.
Yeah, you're right.
So not being social probably obviously doesn't stimulate your brain the same way. So if you're constantly by yourself, kind of like,
And I imagine, because obviously we have therapy and therapy works.
Yeah.
I imagine if you're somebody who suffers from a lot of problems in your mind and you can't talk them to other people, you don't have that chance to let go of that stress, and stress leads to strokes and
yeah. And another thing they brought up too was because you mentioned moving out, the number of single households has doubled in the last 60 years. So people living alone, contrary to popular belief, has actually gone up. So people are just constantly alone.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
In the last 60 years?
In the last 6 years, it's been doubled.
I feel like that could mean a lot of things.
Well, I'm assuming it's kind of like the nuclear family type thing is kind of dissolving.
That.
So, and then, so.
I also think that obviously in the last 60 years, women have gained more independence, where in the past, it relates to the nuclear family.
Yeah, for sure.
Where in the past, obviously, if you're a woman living by yourself, what do you mean? You don't have a man? You don't have kids? So I think that has changed.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I was thinking about this in a larger scale, that because kind of what you brought up, right? Like, how does it affect you? It's interesting how that kind of thing affects you on a physiological level, right? And I guess what I was kind of like thinking about was this TikTok I saw about. It's one of those open-ended TikToks where they invite people to duet, and it was this person saying like, "Oh, how do people walk around not caring what other people think?" Right? And this guy duets, and he's saying, "Well, I realized that I don't know what anybody's thinking." Right? So he goes on to say that, let's say you're insecure about something, and I'm thinking, and you're worrying about what people think. You're thinking like, oh, they must think this, and that. But the reality is, you have no idea what they're thinking. And in reality, you're the one who's being judgmental and painting a negative picture of them towards you. And it's actually a way for you to just be mean to yourself by projecting it onto somebody else. So when he realized that, he was like, I just started assuming everything's cool. But
bro, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
And so when he's saying is that when he started to think like that, and he's like, sometimes you meet people who don't fit them or who are kind of mean, but then I took it back to myself and I was like, oh, they're just projecting like I was. So that's an interesting thing, and the reason I wanted to bring it back to this is, I think you can't just be alone with your thoughts all the time, because I think a lot of people are very negative towards themselves, and I think like negativity can show itself in a lot of ways that easily blend into like the you know, what do you call it, the physical.
Yeah.
So like, let's say you hate yourself, right? You can easily take a lot of actions that would negatively impact you, right? Like, let's say you're like, I don't fucking, who cares about me? I'm gonna smoke genuinely like 15 cigarettes a day. I'm gonna just drink myself away. You know, I think that's why I think when you meet people or you're with good friends, and even like how we talked about with the relationships, right? They can interrupt those thoughts or they can cultivate positive things for you. So that's where I think the crazy
I
like
agree.
physical side effects show up.
Yeah.
But that was just my take. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that what you said is very profound, and I think it's true. Is that if you're somebody who's like, oh, this person probably thinks this of me, this person probably thinks this of me, you can't read minds, and all all those thoughts of what you think people are thinking of you is just yourself,
Yeah.
and so you gotta question, why am I being so mean to myself?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not actually thinking those things.
Yeah,
You walked. My voice cracked again.
it's really getting
I
it.
know.
It's really getting me.
Get it, Yoda.
You walk down the street and you're like, these people probably think I'm a fucking freak.
Mm-hmm.
You're not reading their minds. That's just
Yeah.
simply what your mind thinks of the perception of yourself. It's like, and you have to stop and ask yourself, why aren't you offering yourself kindness?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you walk through the street and you're like, yeah, everybody's cool, everybody probably thinks I'm fucking cool, then you wouldn't have those thoughts. And I agree also with what you said about how I think that when you talk to other people, you realize that perspectives can be so different. And that's what I've noticed the older I get, is that everybody has a different take and a different opinion about things that you feel so strongly about. And it could go anything. It doesn't have to be a political. It could be something as simple as, we're talking about moving in with each other. Like as a dude, I could be like, it's so easy. Why don't you just move in? It's that simple.
Yeah.
But then you meet women and women explain to you all the reasons why it's a lot
difficult,
harder. Yeah.
And I think too, I lost my train of thought. Go ahead, Julie.
No, what I was gonna say is like, I feel like I see that especially with, because especially in my workplace, a lot of people that I meet aren't from here. Like they're all mostly from out of state, so they're generally like starting all over and like meeting new people and stuff. And like I think for some people it's just hard because for one, like I think just the city, it's hard to kind of just navigate to one place to the other because sometimes, traffic, it takes
For
a while.
sure.
Like, I don't know, a lot of people that I at least have met live closer to like Hollywood. And like, driving from here to like Hollywood
Fuck yeah.
is like forever.
It is.
And so like, and I think just a lot of that just complicates it. And especially just like, I don't know, a lot of girls don't like driving, and especially like just traffic wise, it's just like, it's just bad. And I think the other thing is just like a lot of us have multiple jobs that like just complicate our time to kind of just be available to like hang out and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's only like for me that I have like jobs and I work a lot in the evenings, where it's just like to compare it to if I have to add a friend who kind of like has the same schedule, but like, she works for a whole different like industry. Like it's just hard to kind of just have that planning to hang out, which is where like the relationship kind of like complicates itself.
Yeah.
And I do know somebody who like is very negative about like themselves. They're not from like here. And I can tell that they sometimes feel like this loneliness. And I feel like they have started to use work as a place to kind of like find friends. But I feel like because they've been so stuck in like that negativity that like they sometimes come off like negative towards other people. And I think that takes them away from actually developing those friendships.
Yeah.
Because they've been so like negative with themselves that like it starts to kind of like radiate off of them, which makes them not be like super approachable sometimes.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
like their own worst enemy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think with a lot of this kind of stuff, like friendship, right? I would like, and how you mentioned, right? A lot of sometimes schedules just don't line up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's neither here nor there. That's its own thing. But I think people underestimate how important these kinds of things are. Like we talked about sleep a few episodes ago,
Yeah.
a good amount of episodes
Yeah.
ago, or having a lazy day off, or whatever those kinds of things are. I think for whatever reason, I don't think anybody has the gravity in their minds of what those things mean. Because if you really sit down and think about what like having good friends is, it's a lot of things. It's having a good support system. It's a lot of, I think, almost crucial things.
Yeah.
But I think it constantly gets pushed to the back. Like I can always just text them, or or I see them on Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
But even the study says that they find that there's no substitute whatsoever for actual social interaction. And I think it just kind of falls by the wayside because I guess for whatever reason, people assume having fun or like anything positive is kind of like it's not that important, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe even doing a hobby, right? Like if you have a hobby, people can kind of see that as like, that's not really that important, you know? But if you sit down and take the time to really deconstruct what having a hobby is or those kinds of things are, you can see they're really important towards your mental health or like whatever it is, you know? That's why I also think maybe it kind of fell out of favor.
Yeah.
People lost the importance of what it means.
Well, I also feel like, you know how you always see a lot of videos, especially on the internet, about like how a boyfriend should act and all these things.
Yeah.
I feel like people are starting to have that with friendships, where like they're starting to have like these high expectations of how your friend should also act, where it's like, at least the side that I've seen it in is that like, like your friend, if your friend really cared about you, they would reach out. Like, a phone goes both ways, where it's like, I don't have to be the only one reaching out constantly. Like, they should also learn to reach out. And I feel like you constantly hear that on the internet sometimes, whether it's like TikTok, Instagram, whatever. You sometimes hear it of like, they should do this for you. They should do all these certain things. And I think people are also starting to have like expectations of what a best friend is too.
Like idealization.
Yeah. Where I feel like I think people sometimes take that very to heart, where they're like, oh, my friend isn't acting that way, or, oh, they're not texting me. I'm always the one texting them first. So I'm just going to stop.
That's
and then from there,
point,
it just
bro.
like completely just like ends.
Definitely.
And I feel like it's more of like, I don't think it's like, I wanted to say like it's like revenge, but it's just more like, you know, they're feeding into that of like, yeah, like if she's not going to text me, I'm not going to text her. And then it just kind of ends.
Unrealistic expectations, kind of.
I also think it's both a little bit self-centered and it's both also a little self-harming because I think it's self-centered in the sense of like, you know, people have lives and you know that the older I get, I also realize that it's true that nothing is ever personal.
Yeah.
Usually when I feel like a friend is being distant, when I was younger, I would always take it as like, oh, it's something I'm doing. Like our relationship is waning because we just don't like have the same chemistry. We don't fuck with each other, or maybe I did something. And then I always come to find out, oh, it's something personal. One of their family members is sick, or they're struggling in school.
Yeah.
You know, life just gets in the way. And obviously, if you're human, you don't have the full capability of seeing the big picture. And you forget about friends if you're going through a crisis.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you could take it personal and be like, this friend isn't reaching out. He's not living up to my expectations, so I'm going to drop them. I agree that it's also an unrealistic expectation. And I also think it's self-harm because I think you want to so quickly jump to the conclusion of like, it's personal. They hate me. I don't fuck with them. I'm going to let them be. But humans and friendships are imperfect the same way any other relationship is imperfect. Yeah. And their work, you know, your friendship isn't always going to be happy and loving. I like what older people say when they talk about friendships. They talk about how a true friend isn't someone who you always have good times with. Sometimes your friends will say some harsh truths to you that you don't want to hear. My voice keeps cracking.
He wants to cry.
Get it,
and I think
he's thinking about all the homies.
Well, I think about what you're saying is so true. I think that the Instagram and TikTok and all that paints you an unrealistic picture of what friendships are, and sometimes you unfortunately have to go through some shit in order to build a stronger relationship. Yeah. And I see it in my own life, like when I had friends growing up, like some of my closest friends now, when we first started our friendship, it wasn't super close. They would ghost me. Sometimes they wouldn't talk to me. Sometimes I'd invite them and wouldn't have the best time. Sometimes it felt like it was only me reaching out. But then as I stuck through it and we learned about each other and we became closer through experience because we just experienced life together. Yeah. We became closer. And then that's when all those fairy tale idealizations actually became true, where they were down for me, where they were always there for me, where we were always having a good time, always laughing. And it only became true because we worked on the relationship, whereas I feel as though social media paints you a picture of what friendship is going to become at already like the first stage. And that's not true. You don't just magically become best friends with somebody off the bat. It takes a lot of time, and it isn't pretty in the beginning, but it eventually does become whatever you want it to become.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to touch a little bit back on what you said about how like some of the schedules don't work. I know you said it wasn't here or there, but I disagree. I think
I
Western.
didn't mean it like that. Like,
I know,
yeah.
I know. I'm not trying to grill you.
Yeah.
I just mean like I think Western society and a lot of our infrastructure and a lot of our culture allows for friendships to be harder to make because people are constantly trying to work and survive. And also our media paints being a loner, being alone as almost something negative, as something to be ashamed of, as something to be weirded out by. And so even when you're out, like in clubs, bars, or anything, you feel isolated if you're there by yourself because our media has portrayed this image of you should already somehow have all these friends who you go to parties with and bars and you do the nightclub with. And I think what's weird is I think the lack of friendship going down is definitely like social media. It's just a part of our culture that unfortunately continues to betray unrealistic expectations on how to find friendships.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting conversation that you guys are bringing up because I think it kind of goes both ways. I think on one aspect, I think a lot of relationships share a lot of like intersections, right? So I think there's a lot about intimate relationships that you can take and apply to platonic relationships. So like on TikTok and stuff, there's always these unrealistic expectations of what a relationship should be like, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's very true. And I think that obviously happens for platonic relationships. But I also think another thing that does happen because people are so very lonely or it's a lot harder to make friends is I think a lot of people tolerate bad friends because I do think bad friends actually exist.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people who I don't know but know of where they'll describe friendships and I'm like, that sounds really like bad. That sounds like those people don't actually care about you and they're using you.
Yeah.
You know? But I think because maybe people don't approach platonic friendships with the same vigor that they do that intimate romantic relationships. I don't think a lot of people are very socially adept. Is adept the right word?
Yeah.
And I think COVID probably really ruined that because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people have this connotation that COVID was just very short. And yeah, on a grand scale, it was. But it reminds me of like traffic. You know how like when one person stops, you would think that the traffic would pick up really quickly, but it doesn't. It stretches for miles, and it's like they call it like the snake, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of happened. I think a lot of people became a little socially awkward because nobody was seeing each other. Because I think it's like a skill. It's a practice skill, like getting into an intimate relationship, right? Nobody just knows what to do.
Yeah.
That's why people suggest you should date around or you should have you should have uncomfortable conversations. You should do all these things because then you learn how to actually act. And I think like what you were saying, right? I think you're supposed to have uncomfortable conversations and confrontations with your friends. Because I feel like if everything's just kind of like perfect all the time, I think that's kind of like a red flag.
Yeah.
Because then it's like how close are you if you're not comfortable being confrontational with them?
Yeah.
Or like saying, hey, that actually hurt me, or hey, I might need this, or like do this, whatever it is. So I think it's interesting because I think it really does go both ways.
Yeah.
And I think what you said something about being alone, right? Or
That it's painted negatively in media.
yeah. And I think, but I think what this is kind of getting, I agree, but I think what this is kind of getting at is just socializing in general. You know, like I agree. I think there's not always this fairy tale friendship like in the movies.
Yeah.
We cut our hands and become blood brothers. But I do think it's really important to have emotional support systems. Like I don't think you should be like what we talked about earlier, right? If you're insecure, there's things you're going through. I don't think it's healthy to like just be that to yourself. Because like what we were talking about, I think people are very self-centered in my opinion. And I don't mean that in the way that it sounds. I just mean by nature, you're always thinking about yourself. That's just how you are. Like with insecurities, how often do you go around and look at people and be like, oh, I bet Steve's so insecure about this. oh my gosh, I'm just thinking about how insecure he is. You never do that.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a hater and like a psycho. But nobody's like that. You're always thinking the opposite. Like, oh man, like Steve probably can see like right through me. I'm so insecure. Like,
It's true.
but he's probably not even thinking about it. He's probably thinking like, oh man, gotta pick up my girl in an hour. I gotta go get lunch. You know, he's not. It barely probably even crosses his mind for more than 5 seconds. You know, so I just think like to wrap things up or go back around. I think it just maybe should be approached with a little more seriousness, probably, right? To who you hang around with, how important that is. You know,
Like
stuff
who
that.
who you have in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it is just because, again, I like kind of what you said. I feel like I've heard about stories about like friends and kind of like how they kind of like just trade off these things. And sometimes it is very one sided
Yeah.
where it's like one friend is taking more than the other. Like the other friend's giving up stuff for this certain person just to like make them feel right. Good about themselves. And I feel like people don't know how to stand up for themselves in that fact of like they just tolerate it because they're like, oh, they're my friend. Like if I don't have them, I'm not gonna have anyone. And it's kind of like no, learning to also vocalize of like standing up for yourself, you know, and not tolerating, you know, shitty friends. Like, and I think that's just something really important because it's again, it's your social circle and it's kind of like who you have around also kind of shows who you are to yourself.
Yeah.
You know. And I feel like it is important to just like have that. And again, like being alone isn't all that bad. I feel like there is times when like you should learn to also know how to be by yourself, while still like learning how to socialize with people.
Yeah, in moderation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything in moderation.
Yeah,
right?
because I feel like it is cool and you learn a lot about yourself when you are by yourself and like doing things like maybe just going to the mall or like going to the gym by yourself. Like I think that shows a lot more of like your independence, but it's also cool to also like know how to socialize and talk to people and like having somebody there to kind of, again, like your mind is so powerful and like a lot of the things that you think about yourself aren't going to be true sometimes. And I feel like having somebody to kind of like let out all those things and frustrations or like the happy times, I feel like those are nice to also just share with somebody like as a friend, you know.
I agree.
Yeah. I really like the way
If you're out there and you don't have friends, hopefully we can be your friends every Thursday.
Yeah.
And that's our show. No, there is. I mean, I've seen people say that's why podcast blew up because it feels as though
like you have a friend group.
They're in the
Yeah.
conversation.
I would love that. If you guys are my homies, you guys think you're my homie? Well, you guys are my homie. You don't have to think. You are.
Just don't be delulu about it, you know.
Yeah. Don't be like, yo, Steve, what's up? Remember me? I'm the homie. And be like, oh yeah, I remember you.
Okay.
But you could always say what's up to me. I'm a very friendly guy. I've been told. I'm a super friendly guy. Too friendly, actually. I've been told. I'm too friendly.
Too friendly.
Yeah,
Why, what
very
is that?
trusting.
What is that? Well, people take advantage of your.
Yeah. Well, it just means like obviously like somebody could be their intent could be like they're trying to murder me.
And you're
And
like,
I'll just be
what's
like,
up?
We're like, what, him? He couldn't hurt a fly, and he's like
He's like the
bloodlusted
tattletale strangler.
Yeah. He's bloodlusted. Yeah. So if you ever want to say what's up, say what's up. Hopefully we can be your friends. But moving on to right.
Yeah.
Moving on to my topic. Shout out to Ryan from Un Poquito Podcast. He's what inspired me to do this segment. He told me something very profound about people who are artistic, that because they see a lot of roles in society and they see the social constructs, one of the things that's very common is for people who are autistic to become pansexuals, because they feel as though if you're somebody who's not neurodivergent, you're kind of taught who to be attracted to. And if you're somebody who is neurodivergent, somebody who's on the spectrum, you kind of learn to just like whoever you like based off who they are as a person, rather what their outward appearance is. And I thought that was very profound. And so I did some research, and I found this incredible video that was by a physician. And he talked about how if you know of somebody who is autistic, they may you could ask them, because more than likely they will have questioning gender conflicts. I forgot what word he used. And also, if you know somebody who is questioning their gender, more than likely they are also autistic. So he was saying that it's very, very common for somebody who is neurodivergent to often be questioning gender. And that inspired today's segment where I looked up what are certain things that are, social constructs. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I wanna go ahead and read some to you guys, and I wanna know what you guys
What our
think.
takes are on those.
Yeah.
I'm
See,
like, no.
yeah, they're like, no, hell no.
No,
So the
no,
first
no.
one is gender.
Yeah.
Obviously, it says gender roles. Gender roles are expectations about how men and women should behave. Many societies today classify people into a binary of male or female to point to something biological, but there's nothing. We put those meanings.
Yeah.
They're not. Damn, my voice keeps cracking.
He's so passionate today, bro.
Today I
The
just
topics
feel.
are just getting him. He's just choked up.
What do you think of that one? Do you guys agree or disagree?
Yeah, that it's a
You guys
construct?
can disagree if you want to.
Nah, I don't disagree.
That it's a what?
It's a construct.
It's a
Yeah.
First, do we have to like when we were talking about philosophy, do I have to explain what a social construct is?
Oh, you mean like that? Well, what is,
Yeah, what is
I don't.
what?
I think I was looking at our analytics, our age range of our audience. I think they know what
They
that
know.
is.
Okay. Well, if you don't know, it's just basically like something that doesn't exist, but we as a society deem that it's true.
Yeah. But yeah, I think for gender and a lot of pretty much every social, everything that isn't objective, right? That's like a person made. I don't
Yeah.
like good and bad, right? I brought that up a few
Yeah.
episodes ago. I think people always exist on a spectrum. It's all the way over here is white and all the way over here is black. I don't think there's anyone at the ends of the spectrum. And if they are, it's rounded to a whole number. It's 0. I think everybody's somewhere on that. You might say, oh, well, this person leads very like towards the white side. Then that's fine. But they're not. I don't think nobody's ever completely white. Just like.
and you mean that in the sense of gender.
Yeah, like just like if you want to apply it to a far more basic thing that anybody can understand, there's no such thing as anybody who's completely good, and there's no such thing as anybody who's completely bad. Everybody is somewhere on that spectrum.
That's a really good example. Yeah.
And that's why I think about with gender, because I think Neil deGrasse Tyson, I bring him up a lot, but I think I like hearing a scientist's perspective because I don't think any opinion can ever be objective, but scientists in their fields of study have to be as objective as possible. So it's as close as you can get to being objective. And the way he explains it is he's like, people just love fitting things into categories. That's just how the brain works. So when it comes to gender, people don't understand that it's just the innateness of the brain to be like, what do you mean? Like, you fit in this box, even though people are really complex and they don't. And he brings up, like, people do that all the time. Like, if you want to be super masculine, what do you think, right? Well, I'm gonna grow out my beard. I'm gonna get tattoos. I'm gonna go to the gym and get ripped. I'm gonna show my muscles because I want to express my masculinity. I want to express that I'm a man. Or, the other way, like, oh, I'm gonna paint my nails because that's what we've deemed to be feminine, right? I'm gonna do this because I want to express that. Maybe one day you don't. Maybe you're like, I kind of want to cover up a little, So I think that's a really good way of looking at it,
I agree. I also think that shows you like, well, why do you give a fuck so much about what other people think? That's what I always think of a social construct. And I guess in gender, sometimes I feel it more because I just think about that, like painting your nails or in a way just embracing femininity as a man. And then I could just hear a conservative dude or ignorant dude being like, I wouldn't do that. Like, that's gay. Or like, that's like not something a real man does. And it's like, what? But like, what defines that? There isn't like, if you look out into space, there's like male and woman planets, right?
Yeah.
Like that's literally such a small way of thinking. Like for me, the only reasoning is like, oh, it's because obviously like, well, you're gonna go out there and all these people are gonna see you. They're gonna be like, my son is a freak, or like my cousin is a freak, and it's like, but you're literally giving a fuck about what other people do. Isn't the most masculine thing to do is to not give a fuck what other people think?
Yeah.
So like, and then they're like, no, like you're just trying to find loopholes. Loopholes in what? It doesn't even make sense. Yeah. This is made up. The same way money is made up. It's not fucking real.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and move on because this could literally be its own podcast.
I think people are like what we brought up. They're projecting, right? Like people are concerned what other people are doing because they're concerned what they think they're doing. I don't think, like we said earlier, like if someone's like, why are you painting your nails? Why are you painting your nails? It's because maybe you low-key want to, or you would, even if you don't want to, You're afraid of what people would think if you did.
Yeah.
You know,
It's what you've heard.
It's what you've heard. It's
Yeah.
what you're, because everything, like I just said, I think it's impossible to really have an objective take. Everything is heavily influenced by your experiences, your DNA, your biology, this, and that. So when people act like that, I'm like, there's something about that bothers you, and you're just projecting it onto everybody else. And I guess why it's so hard, or like why gender so triggers a lot of people to like be so angry, is because, you know, it's just hard to.
I think it brings up a lot of questions of identity.
Yeah.
And I think naturally, specifically I'm thinking of Latinos, but this goes for all humans. I think naturally people very struggle with identity crisis, and to now bring up gender, I think is just such like a overwhelming thought, and you become afraid. And when you're afraid, you want to push things away and you want to act impulsively. And so I think that's why it also like really, really triggers people when you talk about gender. But moving on, second thing that is a social construct is fashion. What's considered in style or appropriate to wear is also a social construct. The idea of what type of apparel is considered fashionable is an example of a social construct because it changes quickly.
For sure.
Yeah.
Remember when everybody was wearing skinny jeans and now everybody's wearing baggy stuff?
It was like gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Do you agree?
Yeah. Well, because I'm thinking about that where they're like, oh, skinny jeans and whatever. Because I think I saw it somewhere on the internet when they're like, oh, when you see somebody wearing skinny jeans and they're making the ill face.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bruh.
I think this one's funny just because you can use it as like my fit isn't trash. You're just conforming to the social construct.
You're
of
just
what
not
is good.
You're just not there yet.
Yeah, you're just
Well,
not
because
there.
I think about, there's a lot you could talk about with this too, though. Like racism and stuff like that.
Yeah, if
Well,
I had somebody who was more into fashion,
Yeah.
I would love to talk to
But
them.
you know what I think about too is like, you know how you've seen how Timbs are coming back, right? Now, maybe they never left, but I feel like they had a
they
different,
never left for me.
they had a different connotation before, you know? Like everybody's like, oh, he got the Timbs on, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And now, but people wear Timbs now because they're really cool. They think they're cool, and that's cool, right? But did you know? Fun fact: you know, killer whales.
Mm-hmm.
You know they have fashion trends.
Really?
It's I think the only animal that scientists have actively observed to have fashion trends.
How?
Yeah.
So
Would they
I
wear
think
shit?
I think what they found was, I think some orcas in this specific pod. This is how they know it wasn't like in the entire species. Was this one orca started putting, I think, kelp on its like face, or like a starfish. And I'm not even making that up. And they could, for the life of them, not figure out why it was doing that. And then once that orca started doing that, the whole rest of its family started doing it. And then when they would meet other families, those other orcas would be like, yo, he got that shit on. And they'd start doing that. And then
That's
it would
cute.
spread. and then eventually it would fall out of fashion, just like with people. So it was like a cycle.
What the
Interesting.
fuck? So like
So
social
is it-
constructs exist in
Nature.
nature too.
At least,
Oh.
well, obviously the orca can't be like, yeah, you're right. But it's a very heavy.
Unless it's in Neil deGrasse Tyson's like, no, it's in our biology. And it's in our biology to look fine as fuck.
Yeah.
To have that shit on.
That shit on.
It's in nature we see that people love having that fucking shit on, having a fire ass fit.
That's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
That's cute.
Kind of wholesome.
Yeah. But I'm gonna start saying that. If I ever dress trashy, I'm gonna just be like, it's because you don't get it. You haven't awoken your third eye.
You're just not there yet.
Yeah. Another thing, this controversial. Wait, you were gonna say something?
No, I was gonna be like, do you guys feel that some people try too hard to be with like the fashion trend,
What do you mean?
like to like look fashionable?
I think
Yeah.
if they're really following the trends at the time, yes, I would say yes, because you know how things become trendy.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you see them always in the trends. I feel like that's trying too hard, but I'm not trying to be a hater.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that I don't like fast fashion because of what it does in a consumer level, like in terms of like recycling clothes and like just having an abundance and polluting the world. I think fast fashion just harms the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I don't like it. It's less about like judging someone, but more about like, I can't believe you don't give a fuck about the environment, bro. That's kind of fucked up, you know? Because I don't know if people know about fast fashion, but fast fashion is bad for the planet.
Yeah.
It just basically means you discard all these fucking fast fashion places.
Because aren't clothes like really hard to recycle?
I think so.
Well, you should
they're
recycle
made- they're
them, but
made
people
out
throw
of-
them away. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, that's fucked up, bro. But anyways, the third one, controversial, social contract, religion, and that's all I'm gonna say.
I-
Uh, we talk about religion way too much.
It's a social construct.
For
That's
sure.
it. That's what it says at number 3, social
Yeah.
contract, religion.
Damn.
I think it is, and all I'll say is I agree with somebody's take that if you burned all the religious books ever, they wouldn't come back in that way. So that kind of proves that they're like, or at least if you
It's not real.
The viewers, they're falling. They're leaving in droves.
Do you think our viewers are religious?
I'm sure some of them are.
What percentage, if you had to guess, do you think are religious?
Like
Like where they would care that I said that it would offend them.
I think because Latinos come from religious backgrounds, I would say a good amount of people are on the spectrum of religion. Where
So then that proves it's a social construct, right?
I don't know, because I think even you could say we're on the spectrum of religion,
Well,
because I
yeah.
don't think.
But
I
but
almost don't believe in anything.
But I think that's what it's kind of getting at, is that you can be agnostic, you can be, this kind of thing.
No.
Religion looks different for everybody.
Atheist.
You can believe in it and whatever. I respect anybody. I have
Yeah.
friends who are super religious. I have friends who are extremely religious.
Really?
I'm like, yeah, we have the same friend. There's a friend you probably can't think of him off the bat.
give me the first initial.
C.
C.
Yeah, last name. I mean, the last letter D. Are you serious? I can't believe you don't know. But anyways,
I think I know.
When was the last time I saw this person?
on your birthday.
They were there?
Yeah.
Damn.
That's
how is he
fucked
not
up.
catching on to this?
How do you not
See?
know? I'll give you a last hint.
no.
No? That's it?
Everyone's gonna know.
All right, fine.
Was he on the podcast?
No.
I can't answer that question.
No.
I can't answer that question.
See? Who am I not thinking of?
I'm dead.
That's crazy. I'm really surprised you're not thinking
He's gonna
of that.
watch this and be like, damn.
I know. I hope he's not watching. I'm sorry if you're watching, bro.
Patrick, Israel.
He's gonna name them all now.
He was at my birthday?
I'm dead. Damn, he didn't
Let me
remember.
look at the picture.
No. That's crazy that you can't remember,
You
though.
could do
Anyways.
you could do it after the show.
Yeah. Anyways, fourth social contract, and this one's crazy. Family. The stereotypical family dynamic and family culture differs from each person to each person. There is no inherent family structure. The concept of family is a social construct. Some perceive family to be limited to the traditional nuclear unit of mother, father, and biological. And some also only consider family to be blood, but that's not true. Because there's like step families, there's adoptive
Yeah.
families. So the idea of a family is a social construct. You don't have to inherently fuck with your family. You don't have to inherently feel like you owe them anything. You don't inherently have to feel like they even gave you something because your mom and dad gave
Because
you
they're
life.
more your mom.
Yeah,
because
they yeah. That's a
Interesting.
social construct that's implanted to you by culture.
Interesting.
That one's crazy because is true technically.
Well, I guess the way I see it is like there's two families you're thinking of, right? Like there's the concept of family, but then the way I think of it, but then there's also like biological family, like in the science perspective, like, no, this is your origin, this is your family tree.
Mhm.
You know, in that respect, I don't think it's a construct.
It's more of a lineage than a family.
But if
The
you-
word family.
But if you want to do it in like the kumbaya way, where it's like we're family,
Kumbaya.
you know, like,
We're family.
the whole world is
Like,
my family.
sure.
Like Fast and Furious. We're
Yeah.
family.
Yeah. Well, it's also like it's not only what defines family, but it's like what traditions and actions do you have to uphold as a family,
yeah,
right? Just because Julie's my sister, what if I didn't give a fuck? What if I was like, fuck you, bro. I don't fuck with you. You know what I mean?
He's
yeah. I guess
I
get
fuck
what
with
you
my
mean.
friends more than you.
Oh, my friends are more family than my family.
This one is interesting. I was like, I wanted to read what it says. It says what?
Oh,
You're so dumb. I know you just found out what I was reading.
you
What?
said D. You didn't say G.
What?
What? No, I said the end of his name ends with D. And
I
that's
thought you
true.
said his last name was D.
No,
it started
no,
with
no,
D.
no,
That's why I
no,
was
no.
like, who?
I'm
No,
dead.
no.
My bad. I don't
That's
think he's
fucked up.
that religious.
What? Before we get on the freeway, he's always like, "Father,
Does he
son."
actually do that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna text him right now. On a scale of 1 to 10, how religious are you?
Look,
He would be like,
and you
10.
said he wasn't on the podcast.
I was lying.
I said I wouldn't
Grr.
answer. I said I wouldn't answer.
He gave it away.
Look, this is interesting. Number 5, disease is a social construct.
Disease.
Disease.
How?
Says-
All right,
Okay,
they're starting to
how?
lose me.
It's basically this argument that says that people enact their illness onto themselves. Basically saying that like you can get sick, but the way you act and treat and people treat you when you're sick is a social construct. It uses the idea of HIV and AIDS, right? How people have already a big, strong connotation if you tell somebody you have AIDS, which isn't true. This one. Hey, I'm just reading it. I'm just.
I know, but I guess I'd be like, maybe change the like. I feel like disease itself is different than like if you want to say like sickness.
Well, it says like because the social construct of health and illness, saying like we have ideas of what makes people a healthy person, and I go back to that argument
guess so.
about
I
I
guess
guess
so.
fat phobia, about how just because you're an overweight person doesn't exactly mean that you're unhealthy, and just because you're skinty doesn't mean that you're
Yeah, super
the
healthy.
healthiest person
Or
on the
just because
planet.
you're like ripped doesn't
Yeah.
mean you're.
Yeah, that one's crazy. That
I
one's crazy.
guess.
Let's see. Culture, obvious. Deviance, obvious. Technology, obvious. And then there's one called conflict theory.
What's that?
It says the theory of social constructionism posts that much of what individuals perceive as reality is actually the outcome of a dynamic process of construction.
So perception is a social construct.
I guess
Is that what it's saying?
perception, like the way we view things.
So basically,
That one's too
everything-
hard. My brain's
everything in
hurting.
general is just a social
Let me
construct.
see. It's conflict
Nothing
theory
is
holds
real.
that social order is maintained by domination and power rather than by consensus and conformity. According to conflict theory, those with wealth and power
Oh.
try to hold on to it by any means possible, chiefly by suppressing the poor and powerless.
So that's a social construct?
I guess saying that the way that we live is held up by the 1% and that they actually don't have any control because they're outnumbered by the other 99%, and that we only conform to it because they have so much power and they make us feel powerless. That one's kind of a crazy one. I don't know. Look it up, people. Conflict theory.
I guess so. I don't know. I don't know.
We could take them on.
Do you want me to read a little bit
They're
more?
only
So
1%.
so it's only a
You're
social
funny, bro.
construct that the 1% has all
The power.
the tanks and the nukes.
I think that's true. Well,
So
all right.
so if I rose up against the government, it's just a social construct that they use
Okay,
the
okay.
military against me.
I get what they mean. I think
Yeah,
I think
know,
I get what
know,
they mean
I
because
know.
it's like, you know how obviously the president is just one guy.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
he's just a
And
guy.
yeah, and the soldiers or armies, they don't have to listen to their fucking
Yeah,
sergeants and their generals.
Mhm.
but they
We-
do it because
Yeah. Right now we could all literally just leave, get up, like, and synchronous and run to the White House and kill everybody there. We only conform to them because we think they have that power.
Mm.
That's probably gonna get us flagged.
And I'll leave it at that. World domination. We leave it at that, is that there's strength in numbers. And that when we work together, whether it's getting friends or in a relationship, we can make sure that the world is cool. In fact, we can make sure that everything's cool.
Okay.
I guess.
Okay.
I try my best.
Basically, just go protest. Get your boyfriends. Get your friends. Like,
Interesting turn of
Just
the
kidding.
podcast.
I know, right?
I like the weave. But
Yeah, right.
before we send y'all out, I have to do a shout out to all our patrons. Shout out to Yoel. Shout out to Jada Chicano. Shout out to Daniel Villanueva. Shout out to Angel Zamaron. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Did he comment?
No, I don't think.
Well, then I guess I'm saying that right. Sarah without an
Sure.
H, Carlos, and Steven Carbajal. Thank you guys so much for your patronage. We greatly appreciate it. And if everybody ever wants to join the Patreon, we have a lot of great videos. We've amassed a great library on there. So
That's
I
true.
highly recommend checking that out. Also, check out our tickets, which are for sale
Yes, sir.
on our Instagram.
It's
the-
on our link too in
The
the
link
Yeah.
will be in the
description.
bio.
Yeah.
Please come check us out. We're doing a live show at crypto.com arena.
Come be our friend.
We're going to be sponsored by the Los Angeles Clippers.
Yes, sir.
The first 25 tickets get to meet the players. Y'all get to high five them in the tunnel.
Mhm.
We've sold 17 tickets. So that's what? 8 more people who could probably get to
And that's
High
by the time this,
five.
hopefully, it's still
Yeah.
accurate by that
Yeah,
time.
so grain of salt. But
Yeah.
if it is, you know, you have a chance to meet some NBA greats.
You
Yeah.
could you could even probably meet the owner.
Yeah, historic. Damn, that's crazy.
What's his
He
name?
walks
Historiccrypto.com.
Steve Ballmer.
Ballmer. Wow, Steve.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. If I was a fan of us, I would take that offer.
Yeah, it's a great offer. But thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.